Good afternoon, and a number of South African companies are in Davos, Switzerland to engage with global leaders on critical issues that are facing the world. And our business editor, Xolani Mbwanja, is there. Xolani, I believe you have MTN CEO Ralph Mupita with you.
Good afternoon, Antogozo. Yes, indeed, there is a hive of activity here in Davos, in Switzerland, with the World Economic Forum, actually focusing on a number of sectors. And of course, the tech space, the telecom space is an important one that always plays a huge role here when it comes to deliberations amongst the global elite. And with me is the Group CEO of Africa's biggest telecoms company, MTN, and that is Mr. Ralph Mupita, who joins us now to share his insights and his views on what has actually been deliberated here. Thank you very much, Mr. Mupita, for joining us.
Thank you.
Your insights as MTN Group, you are a Pan-African company. What has been the most important engagements that have taken place here in 2023?
No, I would say that there's at least three main themes to take out so far. The forum is still to go. I think the first one is that I think the global economic outlook could be slightly better than many of us thought, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, particularly for developed markets. And I think this is an important distinction, is that developed markets look like they could have either shallower recessions, or some of them might actually even avoid recession, given the latest forecasts that are coming out of, slowing inflation across markets. But for emerging markets, Africa in particular, I think we're going to still see some challenges, probably for the next 12 to 18 months. Inflation is very high. It's about 56% in a market like Ghana. Nigeria is in the 20s. Even South African inflation is heightened outside of the range. I think we'll still see some pain for sure in emerging markets. So there is a very important point around, do we need a common framework and agreement to deal with that challenge? That's the first thing. I think the second point is that globalization is still important. There's been the last 2 or 3 years much more nationalistic attitude that says, globalization has its ills. For sure, globalization has its ills. But capitalism and globalization have been the best form of eradicating poverty and social progress, if we are honest with each other, over the last 40 to 50 years. So we've got to find a form of globalization that can ensure that everybody is brought along and no one is left behind. So it's now much more of the form of it, and how we have a much more diversified form of globalization is another key message. And then on the technology side, obviously as MTN, we're going to talk about technology. It's very interesting, developments around artificial intelligence, and how artificial intelligence gets naturally built into systems. And I think there's some important narratives around that. The important narratives around space, technologies, and how they'll interact with terrestrial technologies and subsea cable, so that in time to come, we will absolutely have everybody always connected. So if we have the network failing because of power outages as we're experiencing in South Africa, this phone should be able to automatically link up to a constellation of satellites and keep you and I connected. And so there's some very interesting conversations around. So I'll make sure that I would say that those are the three main themes so far that have been in discussions at Davos, certainly for me.
This is not the first time that MTN Group has played a major part here in Davos at the WEF. What do you hope to achieve this time around?
No, look, for us, part of the value of coming to Davos, and I know that there are a lot of critics about, all these fat cats and CEOs heading off to Davos. I mean, to be honest, it's an enormously efficient platform for us to meet with global suppliers. I've had meetings with Ericsson, have had meetings with the likes of Nokia. We're talking to Google, Microsoft. We're talking to, pretty much the people who are partners for our business. And that's probably like 70% of the time that I'm spending here. I spend the other 30% listening in on some of the latest thoughts and thinking. So for us, it's coming to talk to partners around our strategy for the year, the next 2 to 3 years, and intersecting that with that of our partners, and seeing how we can work together. So that's the predominant amount of the time that I have is the bilateral meetings that we have here.
Let me ask you about something that is taking place back home in Ghana where you operate. There is that matter of that surprise tax bill, it seems, that has been imposed in terms of MTN Group. What's your initial response in terms of what you can tell us about that?
No, look, I don't want to be drawn too much into the matter. We've spoken at least twice about it or made statements. We released a stock exchange announcement last Friday about our position, and then we had an investor call on Monday. I mean, our point of view is, taxes due have been paid, and we took comfort from the fact that there was an independent process that we agreed with the Ministry of Finance and the revenue authorities in Ghana. And, the methodology that delivers this assessment, was not verified or supported by this assessment. And we've done additional checks and balances. We've spoken to Ericsson, who provide us with a system. They've given us a similar view. So we will engage with the authorities, over the next 21 days to put our case forward. We are really committed to Ghana as a market. We think it's a very fantastic market. We're the biggest inward investor in Ghana. So we are looking for a good outcome for us. In many times, we've made statements as MTN that we've paid taxes, and the taxes that we've paid, and we've been proven to be right when we've made those statements. So, look, we may have more to say in the next couple of weeks, but also respect for the process that's still underway and running with the Ghanaian authorities.
Mr. Mupita, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. As you heard, that Mr. Ralph Mupita, the group's CEO of the MTN Group, a lot of critical engagements taking place here with many tech companies that are global in order to actually live up to the commitment that the World Economic Forum actually has in order committed to improving the state of the world, not only for the health sector, not only for business, but for the world as a whole and different other sectors as well. Back to you in studio, Ntokozo.